Hello, writers, and welcome to Writing for Screens. Today's live episode, Ask Me Almost Anything. My name is Glenn Gers, and I am the Chief Operating Everything of Writing for Screens, a channel which I created in order to take some of the skills, tools, and insights that I had to figure out for myself in a 25-year career writing for TV and movies, and 18 years before that, struggling to get into the business. I've tried to take all those things and put them into short, practical, useful lessons that I have put here on this channel, Writing for Screens. Here's a shot of the channel. And if you look down towards the bottom, you will see that there are 3 playlists. These first 3 playlists, after you get past the For You, are Screenwriting Essentials, Screenwriting Tools, Skills, and Craft, and The Process, Being a Writer. These 3 playlists have about 50 little 10-minute videos, 10-minute lessons on various topics, totaling the full amount of my knowledge. Each one has its own topic, genre, flashbacks, character, dialogue, whatever it is that I thought would be useful. I've tried to put it into very simple forms, 10 minutes, a little lesson that you can think about. There is no system, there are no rules, because every artist must make their own path. That's the truth. There's no formula. There's no right or wrong way to do this. There's things that I found helpful. I'm trying to leave them behind for you guys on my way out of the business, sharing my process, sharing my experience in case it's useful. That's the whole deal here. Having done those 50 videos, I then started to do live streams every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time Zone. I come on here and I do a live stream on a different topic. Today's topic is simply asking questions. Anyone has a question, you can talk to me. I'll talk about what I know about that topic if I can. I am now on Substack, and I urge you to go there because that's where all the good stuff is going to be happening. I'm starting to post recommendations. I'm starting posting little tips and ideas. I'm going to be sharing my creative process as I work on my novels and publish things and all that stuff. And that is where it's going to happen. I'll still be here. I'm not going anywhere, but the real action, the real excitement is on Substack. And if you search Writing for Screens on Substack, you'll find me. Hi, everyone. I'm going to say some quick hellos. Hi, Jens and Steed and Thomas Lewis and Nishaj. It is fabulous to see all of you here. Great to see you. Welcome. So I am waiting for questions, but in the meantime, catch you up on some things. The book, the Writing for Screens book, is almost done. I am in fact waiting for my proof copy, as they call it. I have uploaded it to Amazon. It is designed, it is created, and now they have printed a copy, one copy for me, and it is supposed to arrive today, maybe later today, I don't know, or tomorrow. As soon as I see that it is okay, I'm going to click the button and it will be available to all of you. I will put out a video then. I will make a big splash about it then. But that's one of the things I've been doing. But since that's sort of like it's not that it's not creative, but it's not writing. I have gone back to writing my novel, Now Every Moment, which I am posting videos about that writing now and then. My goal is to try and get a draft of that done by the winter and get the damn thing publishable by the summer. So I'm going to be taking you along on that. That is what's going on for me. And I didn't, because I'm doing all this stuff, I have not prepared anything. I'm doing these Ask Me Anythings in the hopes that people will ask me things, but I probably should prepare some topics for Ask Me Anythings. Hey, Burgundy. Yes. Any writing contests or interactive things we can contribute to. Oh, that is an interesting concept. The way that I've been looking at the community, the contributions, is going to be that I am trying to find ways, like I will post a note or a recommendation, and hopefully people will start to converse about it, dispute, disagree, offer insights. I would like to have that, and also mainly just Q&As, what I found here is that when we do these Q&As, very often you guys will simply start talking to each other, giving your thoughts on something, on how to solve a writing problem. I would like that to be going on. So that is one of the main things that I'm going to be trying to stir up and increase. The reason that I wouldn't think about writing contests is I don't want to judge like this one's better than that one, because to me the whole point of this is we're all trying to do something. And whatever it is that you're trying to do, that is valid, that is worthy. And I don't want to say this one wins. It's just not my thing. However, interactive things, you ask any interactive things, yes, the idea will be somebody wants to ask a question like, what's your favorite movie? And they ask me and I panic. I got to tell you, I panic because I don't have a favorite. I don't have a top 10. I don't know. Certainly don't have a letterbox top 4. But what I do have is hundreds. So what I'm going to be doing is posting some of those, but hopefully other people say like, oh, this was great. Or, oh, I have problems with this one. Stuff like that. So that is what we're going to be doing as far as community goes there. There's also, they have like capacities, I think, for like live Zooms and stuff. I don't know. I'm going to figure that out as I go along because I'm self-centered and I really wanted to be just figuring out what I'm saying there. But definitely they have this thing called notes and they have this thing called chat. And the whole point for me is going to be, I will not ask anyone to pay to be part of the Substack. But if you want to sign up and give me your email and therefore be part of the community, you can comment, you can chat, you can do all that stuff. That's going to be the prize for being a subscriber, is that you can be part of the community. And who knows where that will go from there, because I don't know. Thank you so much. Hello, Ming. Ming, who commented on 3 of my posts this week. Thank you, Ming. Good to see you. All right, here we go. Some advice. Can you give any advice about how to deal with inner perfectionist? Thank you for your answer. You are welcome. Let's think about that. Inner perfectionist. Okay. Well, there's a bunch of things that I think are useful to deal with your inner perfectionist. The problem is inner perfectionist generally comes from a misunderstanding of perfection and what the point is. So my biggest thing would be to say, and I will recommend some of my videos on this topic, because I think one of the most important things to do is here, this one, instinct. And I will put a link to this in the description after this is over. Instinct is talking about the idea of that we essentially have to make choices, and when it really comes down to it, our choices are just our choices. They're just what we want, what we like, what we think is good. Your inner perfectionist is putting a layer of someone else's judgment over what you're doing, because what's the perfectionist trying to accomplish? What's the perfection? What's perfect? There comes a point at which any particular project, any particular work is as good as you can make it. And one of the things that I think happens is that we start to make a new thing instead of just saying, that's good. So I think the biggest thing is to think, what would perfect look like? And I think almost always your vision of perfection is going to end up being someone else's judgment, some form of competitive or judged from outside thing. In other words, there is, because on the basic answer to an inner perfectionist is there is no such thing as perfection. And that a thing is simply as good as it can be at the moment. You do the best you can as who you are at the time. If you are trying to do better than you can do, because that's perfect, I'm just think about that sentence. I'm trying to do better than I can do. not I'm trying to do my personal best, I'm trying to push my abilities slightly, but to say I'm going to do better than I can do, because no matter how better you do, you're going to say, well, it could be better. And that's literally not possible. You cannot be perfect. You cannot be to the point where you're going to say, I have done it as well as can be done. If you are a perfectionist, you also much as might get to the point of saying, like, what is the specific goal of this specific piece of work? And then there's a best you can do for that. Like, does it have no typos? Does it read well? In other words, like, I've written a rough draft of my novel. It's far from perfect. It's far from being as good as I can do. It's certainly far from being acceptable. So actually, my level of perfectionism, can I make this acceptable? Can I make it readable? In other words, chapter for chapter, page for page, is it flowing coherently? Is it repetitive? Is it like specific things you can say, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be repetitive. I do want to be clear. I do want to be poetic, whatever it is that you're trying to do. And then you're saying, well, is that sentence poetic? Okay, then it's essentially perfect. The trick about perfectionism is, I believe, when you get to the heart of perfectionism, it is fear. And that's where I draw the line with perfectionism. I do believe you have to keep doing as well as you can do, but you are talking about doing better than you can do. In other words, the key to perfectionism, which is a very specific problem, it's not a good thing. Perfectionism means I will relentlessly think something is not good enough. That's not true. Things are good enough. They may not be perfect, but they can be good enough. In other words, when I get my novel to the point that I read each chapter and it's about the thing that I have decided that chapter should be about, like this is about where he realizes that he doesn't understand the relationship of the couple he's trying to break up. That's what I was working on this morning. I was working on a chapter where this guy who is in love with a girl who has a boyfriend who he happens to be friends with, and he comes to their door and he overhears them having a fight, a terrible, terrible fight. And he hears through the door that they have this fight, and he thinks, at last, they're going to break up. But then they don't break up. The fight doesn't end with what he thinks is going to happen, which is that the girl will storm out. So the point of that chapter, it's like 3 pages, maybe 4 pages. The point of that chapter is going to be, that we see how bad the couple can get. In other words, we're going to see them at their worst, or hear them, because that's one of the points, is that you never see them. You only hear what they're yelling at each other. And it's murky. You don't get all of it. But that's really the point, is that we're not getting all of it. And for some reason that our hero cannot understand, they don't quit. They don't break up. They fight, and they're mean to each other, and they're ugly. Okay, and then they don't break up. And so he recognizes in that moment his inability to understand what they feel for each other, because we don't. None of us understands what another couple really gets from each other. We all have our theories. We all understand each other's relationships in our way, but we don't know what it's really like to be them. And that moment of recognizing that love or relationships are essentially mysterious. That's the point. That's the point of this chapter. So now I know I have to make that chapter come to that moment, to that recognition. So the perfect version of that is going to be the one that makes the fight ugly, that describes the feelings of the character listening to the ugly fight, and describes the experience of realizing that he doesn't get it, that something else is going on that he can't get. Okay, that's my task for that. If I get that done at all, if it's readable, in other words, if we have the steps of the story and the fight is ugly and his hopes are high and then they get dashed, and then he somehow describes the realization that he doesn't understand, that's good. And then we move on. Is it perfect? Is the fight the worst it can be? Is the revelation the best it can ever be? It's just words. It's just a sentence or two. It's just a paragraph. There's no such thing as perfect. There's no perfect paragraph. There's just the best one that fits into this particular place doing this particular job. I'm going on a lot about this. I hope it's helpful. But the idea of, so the question becomes, what do you think you're supposed to do that you're not doing? If you can do things, like you think, oh, in my chapter, I'm supposed to make sure that this flows and builds, and then I write sentences and they flow and build. What else do I think I'm supposed to do? So please, anyone chime in on perfectionism. What does it feel like to you to be a perfectionist? Because to me, whenever I felt like a perfectionist, it's always been fear. And I will talk about that in this video, Fear of Writing. Please watch it. It is the true story of how bad my writer's block got in my 20s, teens and 20s, and well through my 20s, before I began to figure out how to fight my writer's block, which is my version of perfectionism, which was just not being able to think of anything. Oh, also, I do think that we should talk about this one, Getting Stuck or Lost. Please take a look at that video. Again, I will put links to all of them in the description after this discussion is done. But my main thought is, if you are a perfectionist, my bet is that your perfection, A, is based in other people's opinion, which you can never control. You cannot know what another person will think. You can't. And even if you did, is their approval more important than your approval? That's bad. You need to be the final arbiter of, this is as good as I can do. This is the best. I like this part of it. If you hate everything you do, what's the fear? What's the voice? What's the nasty feeling that you're going to be punished in some way or fail or have a bad consequence to being you? That's my question. Okay, let's do some more. Hello, Michael. Read the TNA terms and agreement, I assume. TNA, back in the 70s, TNA had another meaning, which was describing women's bodies in a lascivious and unpleasant way. So TNA threw me about whether it's training their AI and if you have any ownership. Some dodgy ones out there. Yes. Oh, that's about contests. Yeah. Pergany was asking if I was going to do any contests. I'm not going to do contests because I don't like contests, but I will certainly have people contribute their thoughts and feelings. That's what I would say. And my feeling is, if you've got creative work that you're doing, open your own Substack, please. That's my goal. My goal is to get you off me and into you. My goal is for you to watch a little of me or read a little of me and then move to you. Do your thing. That's the most important thing. And whether or not there's any reward, if there's any praise, that is the last thing you should be thinking about. What you should be thinking about is, am I having fun? Am I doing something that I think is in some way kind of cool? That is my thought. I do have a couple of things to chat about, but eating a very late dinner. We'll message shortly. Okay, Steed. I know Steed is on the other side of the planet, off in the British Empire, I believe. Hi, Pennywise. Hi, Pen. How you doing? I think one can be a perfectionist based only on their own judgment and not privy to outside ideas. My goal is to never make something fit someone else's concept, only my own. I agree. I would say that even then, perfectionism is weird. Because of the concept, at least to me, my understanding of perfectionism is you never get there. And any art plan that says you'll never get there is, to me, a bad plan. So my guess would be, like, for me, my concept of perfect is as good as it gets. My concept of perfect is, this is the best I can do right now. This is kind of what I intended, or at least I think it's cool. Or it's doing something that I thought it would do. That's Perfect. That's as perfect as you can get. Do you read your dialogue out loud? Sometimes. A language teacher said, thinking a sentence sounds good in your mind, saying it is another story. Yes. Well, there's two things going on here. One, if you have a certain verbal facility, a certain talent for dialogue, you kind of hear it when you're writing it. However, I very often will say things out loud because sometimes they're hard to say. Like you'll have something like pick a peck of peppers, and you don't realize it on the page. The main thing about saying it out loud is that you get into your performance, and that's bad. Don't be performing for yourself. But I would say things out loud, have some fun with it, but be careful because things are going to be said. If you're doing dialogue for actors to say, they are going to say it differently than you write it. No matter how much you think there's only one way to say a line of dialogue, you will be amazed at the ways that actors will play with it. And that is good. That's their job. That is what you want them to do. So therefore, you should not be saying, this has to be said exactly this way. Sometimes there's a specific word that should be emphasized, but you'd be amazed how many times they won't do it. So my answer is yes, read it out loud. There's certain things that you definitely catch that are stumbleable, or just things that are. Am I too loud? Hold on, Sorry about that. I'm playing with the new mic. Let me know if I'm now too quiet. Reading dialogue out loud is a good thing. Trying to get it, like the purpose of reading it out loud is just to see if you can say it. Because sometimes things are hard to say, or sometimes they just go on too long, or whatever. So those are good to say out loud. But don't therefore believe that it is performed, or that the performance has been locked, because actors will, part of their job is literally try things a different way. And sometimes the director will choose a take that you'll be like, that messes up my entire meaning. Try not to get hooked into a way of saying things when you're writing dialogue. It's natural. You're going to think that, oh, this is the way it should sound. But do recognize it's going to change. The only way you can find that out is to give it to actors and do plays or do short films or do something to learn what happens when your dialogue gets read. And this is instinctive. This is a gift that you can only really use well by using it with others. So just play. But yeah, I would say read dialogue out loud. Absolutely. It is definitely true, especially people who have never had their work done out loud. You'll be amazed at what happens. Things that you think play won't play. But you probably can't figure that out by you saying it out loud, because you know how you think it's going to be, and you're not the actor, and you're not separated from the person speaking. And to really judge a line of dialogue, you need to be separate from the person speaking. Okay. Yes, my Steed says to Michael, that's why they have table reads. It can make sense on the page, but not flow right for speech. Often. Hey, Willie, nice to see you. Thank you for being here. And thank you for joining the Substack. I saw that you did. My goal as a perfectionist is not perfection, but to get it as close as reasonably possible. Yes, absolutely. If you can determine that you've done the best you can, that's perfect. I agree. Pennywise says, it's like a variation of Heraclitus. Not stepping into the same river twice. Every time I read what I wrote, it's, oi, what was I thinking? Yes, exactly. This is a problem with perfectionism, is if every time you come to it, you are going to see it slightly differently. And this is a terrible problem, is that you will be throwing out things and putting in another thing, and the thing you threw out was pretty good, and the thing you're replacing it with is pretty good, and there's not a discernible difference. This happens a lot on television shows, especially comedy shows. They will often throw out a line because it had a bad reading in rehearsal, but that's because they were rehearsing and they may not have gotten it quite right. Sometimes you need to say, that's good enough, or that works, or I want that to work. I'm going to keep trying. I'm struggling with what's the pointism? How about you lot? Okay, what's the pointism? That is a big one. And welcome, Curiosity Corner. What's the pointism? I guess the question would be, what do you think the point should be? Because I will tell you the point. The point is to do it for the reasons that you like. That's the point. If you have a certain point, like making money, then that's you can clearly tell if you are or not doing that. But I would warn you that that's generally a very, very rare occurrence. So the question becomes, if the point isn't making money, and the point isn't getting respect of the culture, and the point isn't getting a big audience, all of which are, first of all, entwined with each other, and all of which are a teeny tiny slot of creativity. Because honestly, money, acceptance of the industry and the culture, and large audiences are all essentially functions of business. They are not functions of art. You can be the greatest artist of all time, and if you don't happen to have a good manager or representative, or you happen to be working with a company that's small and insignificant or badly run, even if you are doing something great, you may not win that money and praise and all those things. So therefore you have to say, okay, taking those off the board, what is the point? The point can be, seeing what you can do. Like you have this stuff in your heart, you have this stuff in your mind, and you're like, I want to see what happens when I turn that into a form. Because that's I do urge you to look at this. Interesting. My imagination thumbnail is gone. I did a video called Imagination. I'll have to put a new thumbnail up. But imagination, please look at that. Because if you are doing writing, you are probably doing it in order to either capture a moment or a feeling or tell a story. In some way, you like those things. You liked consuming those things. They feed your feelings. They feed your mind. They stimulate a part of you that's special to you. Then that tends to turn into, not only do I want, because some people just say, okay, cool, I'm just going to read more. I'm going to watch more movies. I'm just going to consume more because I like that experience. Some of us are weirdly tuned to the idea of like, I want to make them. I want to do it. And that's a weird thing that happens where we go off in this weird way and we say, it's like we see a car and we're like, I want to make a car. Not I want to drive a car. I want to make a car, or I want to be a car. And that's what we're doing. We're saying, I'm going to take this thing. And then you get into the craft of it, the mechanics of it, the artistry of it. And that's its own point. Learning that, getting good at that. You don't get good at that right away. Even if you are immensely talented, you still have to do it a bunch. So part of the point is just doing it, and hopefully you're having some fun. Like I'm going to write about this at some point, but when I was a teenager, I loved movies and I loved the experience of movies, and they had Super 8 cameras, Super 8 movie cameras that you could take home movies on. They were silent, but you could take a movie and project it. That was actually a big deal back there. It's very freaky to say this now when everyone has a phone that can not only make like beautiful sound synced things that you can edit and stuff, but at the time, the only way you could create a motion picture as a person, a consumer, was get one of these home movie cameras and film things. I remember the experience of filming something with that camera and then send it off to the lab, and you put it in an envelope and you send it off, and they send it back as a reel of film and you put it in your projector. I had done some I lived in New York City and I wanted some shots of the city from high above. So I went to a skyscraper which had a viewing deck, Rockefeller Center, and I filmed the city, and I did a tilt down, blue sky, and then you tilted down and the Empire State Building was in the center of the frame. When I saw that projected, it was one of the coolest things in the world to me. It was like, oh my God, I can do this thing. Now I have to learn how to like put that to another shot and make it work. But just that, hopefully that's the point. Writing a short story, or writing a bunch of characters, or describing a town, or writing about a feeling or a flower, whatever it is, that's the point. And then the question is, did I do it good? Can I do it better? That's the point. And then hopefully in this world that we have, you have the option of putting it out there, and it's very hard to get anyone to look at your stuff. There are small, like, depending on what you're doing, there are plenty of magazines, online magazines that will publish stories. But if you want to write a novel, you can self-publish it. You can put it on Substack as a serialized book and put a chapter every month or something, or every week. The point is to do the thing and get it out in front of whoever you can, and recognize that, like everybody else, that will take years of work. Also, the odds are you have a job and a life, and you have to pay your bills, and so the amount of time that you have to do this is relatively small. So therefore, the point is to take a little bit of your day and do this cool thing and have fun with it. To enjoy the qualities of that art form. I believe that is the point. To bring to it what you are capable of doing and what you like in that field. And often the things that you like are not the things that you can do. Like, I might love music. I can't play. I have no sense of rhythm whatsoever. And I have a very hard time with I can't make music. But I can love music. I can write words, and I can. Some people are not great at that, and they might be great at music. That's okay. Whatever that thing is that you love, see how you do with it. That's going to take a while. Nobody is good at the start. If you get anything that's remotely cool at all, it's like with me, that shot, it was like, this is a nice shot, Glenn. Don't worry about it. It's like, we're not sending you off to the Academy Awards for the shot of the Empire State Building. But for me, it was like the stuff of movies was in my hands. The stuff is in your hands. And the point is to play with it, to see, okay, how can I get some version of what I think is cool in this form? Okay. Jen Holland says, it was helpful. Thank you. I'm so glad. I feel sometimes stop, you can never win, so don't even try. Curiosity Corner. You can't win. What is winning? Okay, I have won a fair amount and it took me, like I said, I started wanting to do this when I was in high school, when I was like 14, 15 years old. Like actively working on, I need to be a famous writer and filmmaker and theater person and painter. And over the course of the next 50 years that it took me, I did manage to get some professional work. I did manage to get some things done. And that was an amazing win. It's nowhere near what I thought I was going to accomplish. It's nowhere near the personal expression that I wanted to do. What is winning? That's what I'm saying. But now, like, I swear to God, you can win in the example that you can actually make a thing. When I was starting out, you couldn't do that. You couldn't even, there were like, when I started writing, they had barely invented Xerox machines. So you couldn't even self-publish anything. Now you can technologically, you can create stuff. So the question is, what are you going to do with that technological ability? Have some fun with it. See what you can do. That is the win. If you do it, it is the win. Okay. What's the line between perfectionism and the aim of something good enough? That is a great question. That's what we were talking about before. What is the line? All right, this is a cool quote from a guy named Walter Mosley. Walter Mosley is a great novelist, and he wrote the Easy Rawlins detective series, but he also has written many, many other great novels, and he's also a screenwriter. It's done when you know that everything you need to fix, you can't fix yet. In other words, do the best you can. The line between perfectionist and something good enough is if you can look at it and you can concretely say, I see something that I can make better, cool. Then you should do that. If you are looking at it and you're saying, it doesn't feel right, I think people aren't going to like it, that's not making it good enough. That's fear. That's perfectionism. That is, I think someone might criticize it. That's perfectionism. That's bullshit. Okay? All you can do is if you see something that you specifically can say, this paragraph needs another sentence. This scene needs a stronger moment of crisis. This scene needs a better introduction. I need to come into it with a little more humor. Something specific. Then that's not good enough. Do it. If it's not specific, if it's just a general feeling or a fear, then that's useless. Wipe it away. That's perfectionism. That is external. Very simple line. If you can see something that you can concretely fix it. If you can't fix anything, then it's good. Then it's as good as it's going to be. You're only going to be as good as you're going to be, because that's what life is. And that is what every single person who has ever done something great was doing. I guarantee you, many of them have said, I didn't know if this was working. I didn't feel good about it. That's just part of the game. All you can do is fix the things that you can concretely, specifically fix in your own piece. And if that piece isn't good enough, do another one. Get that one out there, show it to people, learn, experience. The more that you get people's responses, and not their criticism, their actual responses like, ooh, I liked that guy. That was fun. That made me laugh. That made me cry. Those are responses. Criticism is, I think that this is not as good as what Edgar Allan Poe did. Screw that. It's nice. It's good to, somebody will say, oh, I think you should shorten up this scene or whatever. And maybe they're right. And maybe they're wrong. You'll decide. But the key here is you need to do the best you can with any particular piece. And the way that you know you've done the best you can is if you look at it and you can't figure out what's wrong, then it's as good as you can do. And that may be crappy. That may be really bad. You know what? We all do that. We all have done things that are just not very good. Oh well, do another one. Figure out what about that led you into the dark corner of not very good. And you say, okay, I had too many characters. I wanted it to move too slow. Whatever it is, you'll get the hang of it after a couple. You won't fix it in one. You never fix something with just one piece. You fix it in the process of doing a bunch. My perfectionist disorder is doubt. I'm always second guessing myself. Well, the question becomes, what is that doubt, what is that doubt referring to? Because if it's simply doubt, yeah, you can doubt forever. You can doubt anything. You can say, what if I'm going to catch a fatal illness tomorrow? What if this book is going to be judged badly by an important person? What if, I give it to the wrong agent? What if yes, you can always find a doubt. This isn't good enough. But if you can't specifically say why it's not good enough, what specifically isn't good enough, then that's just free-floating anxiety. That's just fear. And that's what I want to talk about. Perfectionism is almost always just fear. And screw fear. Okay? To hell with fear. You can do the thing you fear. Do it in small bits. Do it at low stakes. Don't spend $1 million and go into debt in order to do the thing you think might be bad. Just do a little thing like nobody cares, Put it up on YouTube. Whatever. Just do a little something where there is no bad consequence to being bad, because we are all going to be bad. Always. Everybody who does anything creative is going to do some things that don't work the way they thought. And what's more, sometimes they do something that's really good and people don't like it. This happens all the time. Sometimes people discover it later. A lot of times you get like things that the author, the writer, the creator, the filmmaker thought was good, and other people are like, no, it's a flop, it's bad. What are you going to do with that? That's life. Okay. Burgundy says, not taking my drafts too seriously helped with my perfectionism. Yeah, not taking my drafts too seriously. Nothing is set in stone, and any word written can be rewritten. But no editing can happen without putting words on the page first. This is correct. Burgundy has stated something true. You should think about that. The main thing is it's a process. You get pieces, and then the other pieces you make better, and the pieces that are good you keep. Burgundy says, I am still struggling with feeling overwhelmed by the amount of work, though. That is a fair problem. I'm trying to take my scenes one by one, but it's like I'm intimidated by my own outline. Small steps. It is intimidating. Like, I am looking at my novel, and like this morning, admittedly, this wasn't a great work day, but I did. I worked on one chapter, and I smoothed. So we're talking 3 or 4 pages. Okay, 3 or 4 pages, and I didn't get them right. I just got them a little better. Now, at that rate, this book will not be finished until 2030. So obviously, I'm going to have to pick up the pace. But what I've discovered is the more that you do the process, the little small steps, the more you start to kind of take more steps. You kind of get into it and you have fun with it, and you build up your stamina and your excitement, and you do more. So what I would say is, always do something. But if all you can do is get one step done, cool. Do another step tomorrow. If that starts to work well, if you're doing a step every day, see what happens if you take 2 steps that day. Maybe do it like with me. I'll very often do a step, take a break, do something else, and then come back and do another step. And hopefully I'll get that up to 4 or 5, and then you're really going. But there's no way to go right to 4 and 5. And there's no way to make the journey of 1,000 steps happen in 100 steps. It's just not going to happen. So prepare for the 1,000. See if you can do 5 a day. Cool. But for the moment, do 1 a day. Okay. Reading out loud can help with novels. Yes, reading out loud can help. Printing in a different font, all sorts of things. Okay, good. By the way, thank you for those of you who said the sound is okay. For novels, reading out loud has different benefits, says Thomas Lewis. If a sentence has a problem, you may not notice when reading it, but when you speak it out loud, a wonky sentence or phrase will trip you up, indicating that problem to you. Yes, definitely. Reading out loud, you'll know if it's helping you. It's just that simple. This is the main thing. You'll know if you're doing something and it's feeling good and you're getting new ideas and you're seeing problems that you can fix, then it's a good thing to be doing. If it's not, if you're feeling humiliated and confused and not learning anything, don't do that. Okay. If being a perfectionist is a bad thing, then for me, it's about the part where I write all the rules of the world, all the rules of the universe before writing the story. Sometimes I never write the story. I agree. And that is why in my video, World Building, which I talk about this very thing, which is I urge you, whoever is right, whatever part of it, for some people it's world building, for some it's character backstory, for some it's intricate plotting, whatever it is, don't just do that. Also, create your full story. And if you get, like for me, it's outlining. I will outline until the end of time and never write. So for me, the thing is, whatever it is that you get swamped in, whatever you get quicksanded in, where you find yourself just endlessly doing the preparation and not the thing, make yourself do the thing. Make yourself do a little bit of the thing all the time. Especially with world building, I believe you should not build the world separately from the story because, as I say in that video, the world will only be seen in your story. So if you build a part of the world that doesn't show up in the story, you are essentially just having fun for yourself, which is cool. And it may be inspiring or something, but you have to figure out, where is this thing that I just invented going to be in the story? Maybe somebody's just referring to it and they're not going to see it. But whatever it is, you want to work on the story and the world at the same time. Build your outline and your world at the same time. If you are outlining and you're never writing, start to just write the scenes that you've got. Start to get things down. Don't let yourself get quicksanded. That is my perfect advice. With perfectionists, I mean. I struggle with the dialogue as well. And I also struggle, Nishar says, I also struggle with leaving clues throughout the dialogue because everything has to do with the story. So trying to put that together is hard for me. Well, two things. If you struggle with the dialogue, first of all, obviously, someone has done an entire video on dialogue. So therefore, I would say, definitely watch that. But also, the thing about dialogue is, to a certain extent, you want to let it go loose. Let it go, just like spill a bit. If you are, everybody struggles with dialogue will be different, but a lot of people struggle because they believe that they are trying to convey information. But what if you weren't trying to convey information? What if you were trying to convey that person's feelings at the moment? And even if it's not informative, it's not helping the plot. It's stirring the plot. It's motivating the plot. It's actually encapsulating the plot. Emotion, ideas. Also, sometimes people just talk off the side. And the reason that they're talking off the side is because they have something else on their mind. And you can play with that a little. It's called subtext. But the main thing is, it sounds to me like you are concerned too much with information and not with what that person is like and what that person is feeling in that specific moment, because that's how you get dialogue. You get dialogue when you think, in this moment, this person is talking to this person for a reason. They want something. They are doing something. They are trying to accomplish something. That's where the dialogues are going to come from, because your question is, how does this particular person try to get that thing? Are they the sort of person who demands it? Are they the sort of person who flatters the other person? Whatever it is, how they do that and how the other person reacts to it, there's your dialogue. Okay. Another reason to read out loud, says Steed, who apparently has finished his food. I know what I mean when I wrote I know what I meant when I wrote that line, but that's not always what it actually says on the paper. This is true. Sometimes reading out loud, sometimes for me, changing the format. Like I said, literally changing the font, changing single space to double space to single space, whatever it is, so that you see it differently. I agree. You need to come at it in a different way. Sometimes reading it aloud is good, but I have to tell you, when I read things out loud to myself, I don't listen to myself. I'm too busy working out the reading. I don't hear it. I think the only way to make it, for me, to make it work reading it out loud would be for me to read it and record it and then listen to the recording, which some people do, and which is not a bad idea if you can stand listening to yourself. Anyway. Have you noticed that our attempt to create conflict goes against the very nature of the character's personality? We identify flaws in them merely to introduce conflict, but in doing so, we lose their authenticity, the quality that, although it makes them less captivating, makes them more genuine. That is a fascinating insight. I believe it is true, although I would not say that conflict and character, when you say it goes against the very nature of their personality, that depends on their personality. For instance, if their personality is very aggressive, they're probably going to get into conflict. So therefore, I think what you're saying is not all personalities lead to conflict. And that is because not all scenes should be about conflict. Because despite what people say, conflict is not the only thing in a drama. And I talked about that in this fabulous video called Dramatic Action. So I'm going to urge you guys to check that out. Let me just quickly make a note of all the things I'm referring to. Dramatic action, dialogue, imagination. Okay, so here's the deal. There's a lot of things that can happen in a scene. As opposed to conflict, there could be conciliation. There could be confession. There's con words. There could be forgiveness. There could be acceptance. Those are all things that can happen in a story. And so therefore, this buzzword that happened when people were trying to figure out the rules of writing, of which there are none, or too many, conflict became like every scene should have conflict. That's just nonsense. That's just not true. So therefore, I'm going to say, if you're having if you've got a character, LZ, who has a nature that is not conflicting with others, the question is, what is that story about? You will find some kind of dramatic question, or it could be that you're telling a story about someone who, you know, it has other things in their life than conflict. Maybe they have appreciating the beauty of life, and you're going to tell a story about that. It may be possible to do that. You'll have to figure out how to do it and not like have it be obvious at the beginning and then just repetitive. But the answer is sometimes the authenticity, the truth of this character may be that they are not having conflicts, and that's okay. But you have to think, what is the story? Why are we watching it? And it could be, as in like a Terrence Malick movie or Wings of Desire, a fabulous movie by Wim Wenders. There's a lot of movies where there's no conflict. There's no conflict at all. There's just insights. There's just moments. I mean, there's a little bit of conflict in Wings of Desire, but not really a lot. Okay. We're almost at the end of an hour, so I'm going to say, please, let's stop the comments and questions. But this is fabulous. Hi, Private Zuvio. I appreciate your liking my shirt. It does really pop. It's little, I don't know if you can see, it's little cocktail glasses, little drawings of cocktail glasses. Thank you, Private Zuvio. Curiosity Corner. Try just enjoying some small goal and do watch those videos. Getting Stuck. Watch a lot. I talk all the time about how to not spend your time trying to win. That's my whole thing. So therefore, I would urge you to watch all of my lesson videos or buy my book soon, because all the lesson videos are in the book. I would just say, don't give up. Don't give up. Keep trying, because if you're feeling what's the point or perfectionism, the two topics of the day, I would say the answer to both is think about what it is that you like about doing this, that is a thing that you would do even if no one else was looking. I mean, hopefully you'll get people to look, but assume that they won't. Or assume that only a handful will. The question is, can you get that handful to get the thing out of it that you're putting into it, to get a laugh, to get a sweet feeling, to get a scare, whatever it is that you're putting in, the fun, the point, the reason is to see if you can get that to work. It takes time, it takes work. God created the world in 6 days, but he wasn't perfect. Now you're getting into a major theological debate. Was he perfect, or you mean it wasn't perfect because the world isn't perfect? That's an interesting problem. The one thing about perfectionism that you are getting into, if we stay off the God part, the world is not perfect. Nothing is perfect. Okay, Steed has two problems, one specific, one general. I'll start with the specific. Okay. Two characters, lifelong friends, they each have a massive secret from the other, but they think they're the only one. Until the secrets explode, their dialogue feels really stilted and formal. Don't know how to fix it or rewrite. I do. I can tell you this one. I know the answer. Does not flow. What do you do when the plot works but the dialogue constricts the flow? Okay, here's the thing. In order to have this secret, they have to be keeping that back, which means they also have a full friendship based in something outside of that. What is that? That's where your dialogue comes from. In anything where you have something hidden or is going to come as a surprise or a twist or a reveal, the answer is always going to be you need to have a false or a different reality that we're going to live in until the reveal. That reality has to be a reality that you think is valid. In other words, why are these people lifelong friends? What do they do? What's interesting about them? Like, make them likable beyond their secret. Their secret is not the only thing interesting about them. Otherwise, make them interesting. Find something interesting. Are they both avid hunters? Are they both into crossword puzzles? Is one into crossword puzzles and the other's into ice skating? Do they both have, a crush on the same person? Whatever it is, give them something. Are they people who always agree? And so therefore, the thing that's fun about their dialogue is that they're agreeing, but the rest of the world doesn't get them. There's so many ways. The answer is the secret, that'll come out. But what are they above the secret? What are they in the level that we are living with them before we find out their secret? They're still people. What kind of interesting people are they? And then what you're looking for is that in that quality that we hopefully find something likable in them, we also see some problem. And that problem is going to relate to the secret. Like, they're afraid of something, or they're reluctant to do something, or they're, aggressively for something. Whatever that is, that's going to be the lid over the secret. And that thing is disturbing their otherwise good quality. So what's their good quality? Are they funny? Are they smart? Are they gentle? What about them do we like? That's how you fix that, Steed. Okay. Don't underrate serials. Oh gosh, no. Many novels in the 19th century France that are huge have been published chapters in newspapers. Small steps make a marathon. Oh my God, yes. Dickens, Dostoevsky, certainly Hugo and the French. Yes, the full 19th century is simply made up of serialized literature. And I am a huge fan. I love 19th century stuff. Second of all, I love series, streaming or televised series now, which are the equivalent structurally of a novel, a serialized novel. So therefore, I would say definitely don't underrate serials. And Substack currently is a good place because it allows, you're not publishing one thing, you have a place where you pile them up. So I personally am just thinking that I'm not going to do a serialized novel. At least I don't think I will. Because what I think I'm going to serialize is the process. Like I did the step-by-step. I think I'm going to serialize the process of my next project after I finish my painter's novel. But anyway, small steps make a marathon. Absolutely right, Burgundy. As almost always, the best. Thank you for your advice. Hi tomorrow, kiddo. Just saying hi. I've been watching replays, so good to catch you live again. I am very glad you are. It looks like an Australian flag and a koala and a kangaroo, so good on you. Burgundy has a good question. What does the effect of the secrets have on each other? They don't know each other, but what Burgundy is asking is, do they even suspect that the other has a secret? And if they don't, what is the effect of keeping the lid on the secrets doing to their relationship? Excellent point, excellent question. E. It's an amazing time to create stuff. So many more things are accessible, so the problem becomes mental blocks. E is 100% correct. That is my mantra. That is my message. We are living in a amazing moment in which technology is available that lets us be creative and distribute, which is the key, and that is available to us. There are huge problems with our society and our technology, which are probably going to destroy everything we know and love. But while it's not destroyed, let's try and be creative. Let's try and be creative while dancing on the edge of the cliff. But yes, absolutely. It is. I am just coming to the moment right now of saying, because for the past 20 years or so, I've been saying, damn, I wish I was young now, because I would love to be able to get into all this stuff. And all of a sudden, about 3 months ago, I just said, why not just do it, Glenn? Who cares if you're not young? Just do it. Just put stuff out there. Use these forms. I'm trying to learn more about creating art, visual art, and have fun. So yes. Thomas Lewis says to Steed, if you inhabit your characters one by one, they will tell you what they are going to say next. To a certain extent, that depends. Some people are more gifted at that than others, and some people just feel that more naturally. Some people are more intellectualizing, and they tend to think in terms that the dialogue doesn't flow that way. But it is certainly a very good point to say, in their mind at the moment, with their secret locked away, what are they doing? What are they interested in? What are they feeling? Because they clearly are not feeling the thing that's locked away because it's a secret. So they are also feeling another thing. Maybe it's fear that the secret will be exposed. Maybe they are trying to put on a glamorous or impressive front in order to cover for their secret, which would make them very, very focused on their external presentation or their rewards. Steed says to Burgundy, they do not want the other to know. No, that's not what she asked. Revealed eventually, the dialogue gets better when this happens. Well, but the question is, do they suspect or are they curious about the thing that the other one is hiding? In other words, do they want to know the other's secrets? They obviously don't want to expose their secrets, but do they want to know the other's secrets? Or do they even suspect that the other has the secret? Thomas, and then they chatter to you through the day and late at night. Yeah, dialogue will come. If your dialogue isn't fun, think about what would make it entertaining to you. And that's the easiest thing. That's the easiest way to steer you towards it, is to say, if you are, and this goes back to our earlier question, if you are feeling that something is bad, think what would make it better. Like if you feel like your dialogue is flat or stilted or formal, what would make it less formal? Would it be some conflict? Would it be a certain banter? Whatever it is, or maybe they just should talk less. Who knows? Okay. Thomas Lewis, they told me what to say next, and I say it's too formal and stilted. It doesn't flow right. Right. Okay, well then the question is, how can you make it less formal? Can you just literally break down the sentences, make them less formal? Just make them fragments, make them bounce off each other. In other words, that they're not just making statements, but responding to each other. Those are things that break down the formalness. They are best mates, codependent relationship. Their secrets are crucial to their relationship and how they treat each other. You see, you got stuff going on. Okay. Okay. Stephen King. I'm skipping some of your back and forth between each other, which always remember, be positive. Always be positive. Stephen King had a wall full of rejections. He didn't like his current project and tossed it. His wife finished it out of the garbage and told him to finish it. He did. That was Carrie. Not only did he didn't have a wall full, he had this spike. He had this nail that he would put them up on. So there was like this thick stabbed thing. This is what we're doing here is what I want to do on Substack, because I have to go. I got to take my mom to her drawing class, so I can't stay on as much as we would like. And you guys are talking to each other, but I have to turn this off. So what we're going to do is move this to Substack, where you can talk to each other and we can all have fun. Okay, Ming says, if I can see what can be done better and that make it not get an end, can it fear too? And that make it, I'm not entirely sure because of the language barrier. It seems like what you're saying is make it. I'm not sure what you mean, but my answer would be, if what you're saying is I can see what needs to be better, but I can't get there, get what you can. That's the answer is always going to be do what you can. And then you'll figure out what you can't do. And some of it, you'll just have to give up. You'll just have to say, okay, maybe that's not going to be great. And if it's not great, maybe you can diminish that part. Like Steed, if your dialogue is really bugging you, maybe have less of it. Just have less. Just cut it down. Okay. Okay. Taking one small step a day will blow your mind from how much you'll have done in a week, a month, or a year. Yes, EE, this is very, very true. Vincent van Gogh, of course, and Emily Dickinson and all sorts of people were considered failures while they were alive. Just make art, have fun, lowering the expectations. Yes, Tomorrow Kiddo, I agree. Lower the expectations. Fear from perfectionism only comes from trying to fit into other people's judgments. Since I'm the only judge of what I do creatively, there is no fear. That's good for you. You are lucky, because some people, they genuinely judge their work badly. It's not even they're putting it on someone else. They genuinely feel badly about this. It took me a while, because I'm sort of like you, Thomas Lewis. I tend to feel like just do what you like. But what I'm saying is I have come to recognize that there are some people who genuinely feel that they don't like their own stuff. They don't like what they do. Hopefully, they can unravel the hidden voices or the hidden fears beneath that. But what I would say is, if you are suffering from not liking what you do, regardless of what anyone else thinks, if you're against it, what I would say is, can you find anything in it that's good? This is the key. It doesn't have to be overall. It doesn't have to be everything. What if you just, like with Steed, he's got a good story, doesn't like the dialogue. First of all, sometimes you may just have to live with that for the moment. It could be something that you'll just come back to later and get better at, or maybe you'll do better the next time. Do what you can to make things better, and then move on. Okay. I'm going to have to go, so I'm going to, unfortunately, this is why I'm trying to rethink my live streaming, because I don't want to cut you off. You guys are giving each other really good advice. I hope you're paying attention. I hope that those of you who are watching will check the chat, because people are like, I don't even have to be here. Okay. Yes, thank you, Burgundy. Burgundy was saying, dialogue is a reflection of your character, who your characters present themselves, who they are before their secrets are out, and why they hide them from each other. As their relationship is going to change later, their dialogue is going to be part of the character arcs. Okay, now Steed's got a more specific problem. I think we can see that when they talk to other characters, it's when they talk to each other that's a problem. Okay. Okay, so here's the question. Think about what it is. Like there's a piece missing from that relationship. So like you're so focused on their secrets that you're not thinking about them as people. Like they are people who's without their secrets, buried or driven by their buried secrets, they are people. And those people without their secrets have to be in some way emotional or interesting for you, the writer. And you have to think, what is it about them? Why is it that when they talk to other people, you like them and not when but what is it about their talk to other people that you do like? Figure that out and try and import some of that into their relationship with each other. What's the difference? Like really look at what's the difference between how these characters talk to other people than how they talk to each other, because you're saying you don't like how they talk to each other. And you have to think, well, what is it? You clearly can do it because you did it with other people. One of the most important bits I can tell you is every question that you ask has probably the answer to the question hidden in it. In this case, Steed has said, I've got these two characters. I don't like that their dialogue is stilted. And yet I like when they talk to other people. Well, there's the answer. The answer is in the question. The question is, what is it about that other conversation that they're not doing in their conversation? Okay. So glad, so glad. Yes, as Perky say, their relationship is the problem. In other words, you are so focused on the secrets that you are not giving them a full life above the secrets. And we always need it, just like with a twist ending, like with oh, this person's actually a spy. Before they're a spy, when we think they're just a florist, they need to be an interesting florist. They need to be a fun florist. You have to sort of make a whole version of the story where they're just a florist and say, what about that florist am I selling? What am I liking? What is the fun of this? L. Browning, thank you, points out, and this is true, inner conflict is also conflict. This is absolutely true. And very often in our stories, there will be an inner conflict driving whatever's happening in the external conflicts. Absolutely. Okay, this is very helpful, Glenn, and Burgundy, and everyone else who contributed. Thank you. Ask the second question next week. We're out of time. Yes, yes, yes. Good luck, Steed. Thomas Lewis, you're awesome, says Nishaj. Good luck, Steed. Hope we've helped. Yes, yes. No, you guys are great. This conversation is fabulous. I love it. Yes. See, now they're having a good time. Yay. Okay. Drive safely, everyone. Be sure to tip your waiters. Okay. Thank you, Rich. Glad that you are here. I may indeed live stream from Substack. I'll probably live stream here and post it on Substack, but we'll see. We'll see. But thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All of you. Yes. Them avoiding each other could have a solution. Yes. In other words, part of whatever they're doing to hide their secrets is also something you can play with. Okay. This is great. You guys are great. I am delighted. We have been having fun. I will see you next week. In the meantime, I hope that you guys go write something.